Welcome to another edition of Jazz Smack, where the Utah Jazz opened the NBA season tonight in the Delta Center against the Los Angeles Clippers, and it was a heck of a blowout win. Let's talk about it.
Jazz Smack, NBA and Utah Jazz basketball.
So that was kind of an unexpected blowout. I mean, I think that most people believed that the Jazz would not have that easy of a win. I mean, I looked at the line for the Las Vegas line for the game, and I think the Clippers were, the last time I looked at it, the Clippers were favored by 9.5. And we previously talked about Kevin Pelton's prediction that the Jazz were going to go 2-23 in the first 25 games. And obviously, I never believed that. I thought that was moronic. And this win tonight, I think, demonstrates how moronic that prediction was. Because the Jazz at home are going to be a formidable team if they're trying to win games. If they're trying to tank, that's another story. But we all know this season, the Jazz are not trying to tank games. So it really, the Clippers looked really disjointed tonight. I mean, it was really a thorough beatdown from the first quarter on. And I don't know what the deal is with the Clippers, but they got down and they just didn't put a whole lot of effort into it. And the Jazz, to their credit, they played hard on defense and the three balls were going in and things just flowed. So, it was a heck of a first game, and I hope that this is more of an indication of what we see the remainder of this season in terms of, at least in terms of the effort itself. As long as we get the effort, I think that, everything else, is secondary to that. Let's get the effort, especially on the defensive end.
Yeah, I think it was a great first win, and the realities for the fans in the arena. I mean, what a great way to start. I mean, in a year where there's excitement about Ace Bailey, there's excitement about the team. We're going young. We're going to try to win games this year, even if we lose a lot. I think it was a great win to start. But at the same time, I felt like the Clippers have a really good team. Honestly, I thought they had some great additions, and John Collins and otherwise. I think they have a really good team, but they just didn't seem to bring any energy tonight. I mean, it was really surprising. Now, you wonder if it's the Kawhi and Steve Ballmer carryover, all the stuff that happened in the offseason, because they just did not seem there. So, one of the things I would say is that, you have to look at each game separately. Is this may be against a team that just has so many issues going on with them that they didn't come with energy, and we get blown out in the next game. You can't tell. I think we have to see it over a group of games, but there's certainly, even with that, were some really positive things in this game to talk about. There were some things that were negative, but there were some really positive things to talk about in this game, and it was great. And to Kevin Pelton's prediction, you and I both talked about we didn't agree with the prediction. But what I would say, though, because I've done this, when you do predictions, everybody criticizes you when you're wrong and doesn't give you credit when you're right. I mean, it is hard to come out and project what's going to happen in an NBA season because there's so many variables with it. So you and I felt like he wasn't really, didn't factor in home court advantage, didn't factor in that, that the Jazz have some good players, which we know, and other players, other commentators don't. But I don't want to dump on him too hard because he was making a prediction, which is hard to do. And I think that one of the things I was going to talk to you about is we should make some predictions ourselves this year and see how we do at the end of the year. Like David Locke today did his predictions. I don't agree with all of them. We can go over them in another game, but he did make some predictions. And so he's out there. You can look back at the end of the year and see how he's done. And I think we should do the same.
Yeah, well, this is the problem with the national commentators trying to comment on all 30 teams. It's impossible to know 30 teams. There's not enough hours in a day to intimately know 30 teams. It is impossible. So when they're trying to evaluate 30 different teams and trying to accurately evaluate and assess their talent, assess the coaching staff, and all those other factors that go into being a good team, a bad team, a mediocre team. I mean, it's essentially impossible. That's why, a prediction that he, like what he did with the Utah Jazz, can go so wrong because, quite frankly, he based it off what they did last year. That was his prediction. I mean, I doubt that he knows much more about it than that, in all honesty. I don't think he put any time into it because the Jazz aren't going to compete for a title this year. So why would he spend a whole bunch of time trying to evaluate the Jazz, who last year finished with the worst record? It's the reality.
Yeah. Yeah, but even with the worst record, still, that prediction suggests they would have a worse record than they did last year, right? Now, maybe that's true because they don't have Colin, they don't have John, and guys that were like their best players, they don't have this year. So maybe that was the rationale. But I think you're right. Like, there's guys out there, like, one that I watched, the NBA front office with Keith Smith and Trevor Lane. Like Keith, my sense is all he does every day is watch basketball. So I listen to him and he has a really good sense, I think, of different players around the league. But one guy I'll pick out on the Jazz, like, talking about Kevin Pelton, is Brice Sensabaugh. I got to tell you something. Brice Sensabaugh is a completely different player than he was last year. He got all the DNPs. He's lighter. He is shooting with incredible confidence right now. Like, I think every time Brice puts up the ball, he thinks it's going in. I mean, he's kind of becoming Curry with like level of confidence, right, in himself. I'm not saying he's Curry, but like, the confidence in his shot. Like, you wouldn't know that unless you really watch the team and watch the summer league, right? But you and I know it, and other fans know it because they're seeing like the difference in Brice this year versus last.
Yeah, Brice has been terrific, and he certainly looks lighter on his feet. He looks a lot more bouncy. His legs look much more lively with the reduced weight. Yeah, he looks fantastic, and I assume that his playing time will reflect how he's played thus far. And if we look at his playing time tonight with the minutes that he got, I mean, he played 23 minutes in this game, and I would assume that he comes in right around that 25-minute mark, if I had to guess. Now, Isaiah Collier is still out. Cody didn't even play tonight, really, except at the very last, 2 minutes or something like that.
That's
so
2 minutes.
Yeah. So we like we already talked about, Will Hardy's going to have a very difficult time managing minutes this year because there are a lot of guys on the Jazz who need development minutes and evaluation minutes from the front office, the coaching perspective. And that's going to be his most difficult task of this year, is divvying up those minutes, because there are going to be some mighty unhappy people, and Cody could be one of those. Isaiah could be one of those, because I don't think they're going to all of a sudden just bench Walt unless he really goes south. It looks to me like they really want Walt to play. So it's going to be difficult. I mean, that's going to be a continuing problem throughout this season for Will Hardy and the coaching staff, is trying to find minutes for enough of these guys. It's just going to be hard.
Yeah, I agree with it too. And I even point out one, Kyle Anderson. He got a DNP, and maybe Kyle is hurt. I don't know. I didn't see him on the injury report, but Kyle deserves minutes in an NBA game. He's only like 32 years old, 33 years old. He can still play, and he should be playing somewhere. So it's got to be hard for him too. And obviously, you and I, that's not who we're focused on. We're focused on young guys. So the guy that stood out the most was the guy you identified with me, is Cody. To me, Cody has shown enough that he should be getting development minutes. Do I think that right now that Cody's a NBA rotation player? No, but I want to see if I can make him an NBA rotation player, and I'd like to see him get more than 2 minutes a game, honestly. Yeah. So that did bother me, on Cody. And Spee is the one, and I think, I'm guessing, even though I'm not necessarily agree with this, they're going to start Ace Bailey as the off guard, and because they were kind of easing him back.
Looks like we lost him temporarily. But yes, I agree with that. I mean, if you look at Svi's minutes, Svi went to 24 and a half minutes in this particular game, and it's really difficult to imagine that continuing throughout this season. I think that if we actually consider it, I think that Svi's minutes aren't going to be 23 minutes a game. I don't see how any way that the Jazz can play him 23 minutes a game. So, it's kind of the way it is and what it is and everything. But for right now, the minutes situation is going to be really difficult, and I think it's going to change from game to game. I mean, some games, some guys are going to get a lot of minutes. Then other games, some guys are going to get very few minutes. So that's just kind of the way it's going to be in this particular season. So why don't we take a look at the box score from tonight's game, and we can kind of see the way that it turned out from that standpoint, the way they shot the ball. So let's take a look at the box score really quick, and we can try and evaluate it from that standpoint. So you're back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the box score really quick and try and see if we can get this up on the screen really quick. Bear with us. We're having some technical difficulties, as we often do with bringing in remote. So here we can look at the box score and really what stood out when looking at this. I mean, the Jazz defense was good. They held on 44% shooting. On the other hand, the Jazz offense shot 55% for this game and 39% from three. They shot quite a few threes at 44. And another huge number that we liked when this took place somewhat with that last preseason game where Walker and Lauri got huge assist numbers. The Jazz as a team finished with 38 assists against only 12 turnovers. Lauri had 5 assists, Walker 4 assists, and Lauri had 1 turnover, and Walker had also 1 turnover. So that's 9 assists against 2 turnovers for those two guys, and impressive numbers. And also Kyle had 5 assists and 0 turnovers in this game. So between those 3 big guys, they had 14 assists. Now, if the Jazz continued to do that and run offense through those guys, that would be a massive win for this season because it'll make it a heck of a lot more interesting to watch. It'll be great for development for those bigs on the Utah Jazz. And it would just help the guards immensely if those guys can continue to pass the ball that way. And the offense is structured in a way that those guys have opportunities at getting assists. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's true. There's a few stats I want to talk about specifically on those players, but they're, in doing that, in part, it's what the Jazz may be necessary with their current roster construction because let's face it, we don't think that Keyonte's a point guard. He had 9 assists today, but we don't think that he's a point guard. Can he develop into a point guard? Maybe. We're a little skeptical of that, but he's not a point guard today. Walt is a developing point guard. He's also not a great point guard. I think he's a scoring guard. I think he actually has the skills to become a point guard. And Isaiah clearly is a point guard. They can't shoot. So if you're playing a lot of those players, you do have to have more assists come other parts on the court. And, Kyle's 5 assists, again, like fantastic. Walker's, how many did you say Walker
4.
had?
4.
4 assists. Lauri 5. And Lauri made some good passes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't just like handoffs or anything. He made some good passes. So all of that was good with those guys. Now, let me point out a few things I didn't like about those guys. I didn't like Kyle at 4 rebounds a game. Like we saw that sporadically, like through the summer league, right? Like one game he'd have 12 rebounds and then he'd have 2. But we saw that with Cody too. Like he played 30 minutes in this game. I want to see more than 4 rebounds from him. Lauri, 6 rebounds. Remember his season of making the All-Star game? He was rebounding left and right. It seemed like last year that went away. 6 to me is kind of a minimum number for him that we want to get. So I would like to see more rebounds coming out of those 2. And Walker's 9, I think is fine, right? I think that was fine. Now, I'll tell you one guy that I've been watching the rebounds on, Walt, 6 rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like 5 of 6, 6 rebounds. I mean, that kid is small, but he can rebound the ball. Versus Keyonte, 2 rebounds, right? Okay, 9 assists, but like almost nothing on the glass. So I'm going to really be curious to see that dynamics between Walt and Keyonte, because Walt fills up a box score. Like I am really thrilled with this guy because he fills up a box score and he's not a big guy. And I think that that's what you want is players that'll kind of try to do like something of everything to help the team, block shots, steals, etc. And Walt seems to have that.
Yeah, he's been. I was really pleased with the way he played tonight. I mean, I was actually thrilled. I mean, he only played 18 minutes, Walt, but in those 18 minutes, he played really well. He obviously came out really hot to start and made a 3. And 1, 2, and then and also a layup. So he had 8 quick points, but passing the ball too. 5 assists, 2 steals. I mean, he was really good, and the 6 rebounds. So Walt's been impressive. But if the Jazz want to be good defensively as a team, they need all those guys to make plus plays, the extra effort plays. I mean, it can't just be one guy. It can't just be 2 guys. It has to be a team effort, a roster-wide effort where all the guys are making plus plays, and they have to be handsy. They have to be aggressive, and we need to see all those things game in and game out. I mean, you look at that Oklahoma City team and what they did last year, and even what they did in this first game of the season they played yesterday. I mean, they're aggressive, they're handsy, and that's what you want to see. And that Oklahoma City team, last year, they had the biggest point differential of any team in NBA history. But they get into guys defensively. That's what you got to do. And it has to be a roster-wide effort.
Yeah, they shut down Durant. They were all over him in that game. I didn't think Oklahoma City played well offensively in that game. I thought they were really flat and kind of disjointed, but defensively they're tough. They're no doubt about it. It was they're good, and and obviously we need to do the same. And one of the things that you and I have always questioned is, Hardy gets a lot of credit for being an offensive-minded coach. We have to criticize the defensive statistics the last 3 years. They have not been good. They've been, worst in the league 2 years in a row, and we need to change that. And you need to make players accountable for that. And so, this is one game. The Clippers didn't score a ton of points. I think it looked really good on that, but I was really happy to Walt. Let me tell you one stat that now we are saying like Walker and Lauri, we're saying like, look, there's in the last 3 games, we've seen good assist numbers from them, at least in 2 of the games. We saw good assist numbers from them. Taylor had 0 assists, so Taylor had 5 rebounds. He's 2 for 3 from 3, but 0 assists. And we saw the last 2 years, right? We saw Lauri put up great offensive numbers and then 0 assists. And so it's one game, you can't overreact to one game, but I think it's something to watch on. And with Taylor is, will he try to pick some of that too? And honestly, I expected Taylor to start. So it was really interesting to me that Kyle started in this. And you wonder if that's because Kyle just brings more different skills to the table, like assists.
Yeah, he's certainly a more adept passer than Taylor. And that's one of the weaknesses that Taylor, I would say, that he had in college and through his first season with the Jazz. And obviously he didn't play last year, but but his understanding of the game needs to improve immensely. And with that, a big component of that is passing the basketball. So, it's hard to get down on Taylor right now because of what he went through last year and how he looks so far, in this preseason and whatnot, physically and mentally. So, I mean, I think that you and I are both really pleased with what he's done thus far. But yeah, he still has, in terms of basketball, in terms of knowledge, he still has a lot of growth in front of him. But, he could still be in college too. So, he could be a senior in college, playing basketball on an NIL deal. So, it's thus far, I'm really pleased. And with 38 assists against only 12 turnovers, it's a really good start for the team as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I'm too hard on Taylor because I'm just thrilled he's playing. And honestly, everything I see, his mom comes and watches him at the game. I mean, we got a great find with Taylor. He put on 25 pounds. He looks huge. Like, this is not a guy you want to meet in the dark alley, right? Yeah. So he looks really good. But it's just something I'm going to watch, like his assist numbers, because I do think in the modern NBA, you've got to do more than one thing, unless you're so good and you're like Steph Curry. Right? I mean, you really got to do more than one thing, and you want guys that'll fill up the box score. And even if they're like small guys, get 3 or 4 rebounds, right? You really want to see that, and so it is something I think we should just watch with Taylor. But we're all thrilled. He's there, and he's looked really good in the preseason, and honestly had a good game today. In the minutes that he had.
Yeah, so let's move away from this particular box score. I mean, let's see what happens with the next game if they can kind of repeat this effort. If they can repeat or have a similar type of effort in terms of playing hard and sharing the basketball and everything, we could see a really, really interesting year. But let's talk about this last thing about, there's been speculation about, will Lauri be traded during this season? Now, I've always believed that Lauri's not going to play out his contract with the Utah Jazz, this contract. He has 4 more years on that contract, and I don't believe that he's going to finish with the Utah Jazz. For this season, I think that him being traded during this season, a lot of it depends on how the Jazz play. I think if the Jazz are playing well, they're not going to trade him. If they go through some struggles and, they end up winning 25 games and they have a really, around the trade deadline or something, their record just is not good again, I think it's much more likely that he gets moved. I don't think they're going to break it up if they're playing well, and it's possible they play well. I mean, I don't think that's going to be the case because I think they are going to go through some struggles, and not finish with a 500 record or something. But I don't think they're going to break it up with Lauri being a significant contributor to a team that's actually playing decent basketball. So that's right. And do I have a percentage on what I think the likelihood is he's going to be traded this year? I don't. Is he going to be traded before his contract runs out? I'll put that 85%.
Okay, let me ask you this, because I was going to approach it differently. Let's break it up into trading this season and trading in the off season. If you add those two together, now you come up with a percentage that you think the likelihood is that he's going to be traded by the end of the off season. And if you don't want to put a percentage on each of those buckets, that's fine, because we listen to others. Like I listened to David Locke a few months ago, where he did this prediction to say, like, when the Jazz next make the playoffs, Lauri Markkanen will be on the team. And I have a very different perspective on that. I don't think that's true. So if you were to add the off season into this, what's your prediction that he's going to be traded by the end of by the end of the offseason?
I'd say 50-50. Yeah, I would. I mean, that's my best guess right now, 50-50. And I don't know what even he means by making the playoffs. Does that mean make the play in, or is it being the top six, one of the top 6 seeds, and actually making the playoffs outright?
Yeah, I don't know. I assume it's that you're making the play. Well, I don't know. But I would say it's that you're making the play in and then winning the play in, so you're part of the playoffs, right? That's what I would say is truly one of the teams that makes the playoffs. But so I'm going to say 70%, and here's why. The 30% for me is Lauri's making $50 million a year, and if he has the injury issues that he's had the last year or plays poorly, he's not going to be traded because we can't trade him without giving up assets. Lauri has to play like he did in the Summer League, in the European League, to justify the contract, and then I think he's a valuable asset. I also don't know the split between, well, there's no answer to this, but I also don't have a good sense of whether it's going to be during the season or during the off season. But I do think that there's a 70% chance that he gets traded by the end of the off season, for the simple reason that, we still need to get additional assets. Like, we know that. And I feel like you can't rush the process, because if you rush the process, I think your likelihood of becoming a championship caliber team is very low. You've got to be patient and go through that. And unfortunately, we had the 2 seasons we didn't lose enough, and we didn't get lucky in the lottery like Dallas did last year. And so we didn't accumulate the assets that we needed those first, 2 years of being bad. This last year we got Ace, and it's like fantastic, right? We got a guy who could be the guy, right? I mean, he could be the best player in that draft. We don't know. So I think that we can't rush the process, and I think we need more assets. And I think, Lauri, unfortunately, doesn't meet the timeline. Nothing against Lauri, nothing against that we don't like him. We do like him. We think he's a great guy. But I don't think he meets the Jazz timeline on a team trying to accumulate enough assets that they can win a championship. And so I put it at 70%. But these are all guesses. We don't know. But that's something we can look at the end of the offseason to say, like, okay, you're 50-50, I'm 70%. Let's see how we did, if he gets traded or not. But I don't know during the season. You could be very well right. Like, they start playing well, it's really hard to break up the team at that point in time. And if he doesn't play well, he's not tradable. The reality is he's not tradable without giving away something like they did with LaVine, right? It just makes too much money. I mean, teams are really worried now about taking on money, right? I mean, that's the big issue is, if you're a true superstar, like top 10 player, you get the max. Everybody else, their comp has gone way down. Teams are really reluctant to sign them. This new is very bad for players.
Yeah. I mean, if you're making that much money, you have to be a spectacular player. I mean, that's the bottom line. You can get yourself in a world of hurt with a bad contract. I mean, it can just take you out of contention. I mean, a bad $50 million a year contract can absolutely sink you. I mean, you can sink your franchise for the next foreseeable years. And Lauri still has 4 years on his contract. So if that turned into a really bad contract, I mean, that could sink one of these teams who's trying to win a title. I mean, it could. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I fully believe that he's going to, but then again, the Jazz need a really good offer from another team too. If they get a Desmond Bane type offer with like 4 unprotected firsts or something like that, I mean, that's an offer the Jazz are almost assuredly going to have to accept and take. Those type of offers don't come around every day. And if you get one of those, you got to jump on it. I mean, so it really, if they get no offer, they're not going to trade him. They're going to hold on to him because, he's a good person for the franchise. He's a good person in the community. I mean, everybody likes Lauri. Everybody likes Lauri a lot. So I think that it's going to take a really good offer for them to move off of him regardless.
Yeah, but you brought up an interesting guy like Orlando. So Orlando's got a lot of young talent. Does Orlando have enough talent to really seriously compete?
I think they have a shot at it. I think they believe they have a shot at it in the East this year. Can they compete with the team from the West? That's a whole other story.
Yeah,
but can they get to the championship? Can they get to the finals? I think that's what they just want to give themselves the best shot to give it to the finals. And I think they're one of the five or so teams in the mix that have a shot at
it. I don't think they're even in the same league as New York or Orlando or Cleveland. I think those teams, like Boston, clearly is down without Tatum, but I don't think they're competitive with those teams. The reason why, and I'm judging what we criticized national commentators doing against the Jazz. I'm going to do exactly the same against Orlando. Their big name players are very inefficient offensive players. They can't shoot the 3-point ball. None of them can. They can't stretch the floor. They're very inefficient offensively. So if you look at the advanced stats on them, it's not, they need those guys to really enhance their game. So both Banchero and Wagner, I'd put in that category. Suggs, I'd put in that category. Black, I'd put in that category. So you got like all these guys. And so you're saying like, look, you're bringing Bane in, who I like Desmond Bane. Do I think he's a superstar? Do I think he was an all-star? Probably not. Maybe a borderline all-star. But you gave away all of those picks that I honestly think they need some of those picks to try to get that extra person, because I don't think the current team that they have is going to do it. That's my guess. But maybe Banchero really takes a leap this year because, I think he was an all-star last year, but he's still a very inefficient offensive player. And that's the issue I see with Orlando.
Yeah, offensively they're not great. They're still not great. I mean, they're not going to be a top 10 team offensively, even with this trade. Defensively, on the other hand, they're a top 5 team. I mean, they're really good. Franz is awesome, and Suggs, that's where he's carved out his niche, is defensively. Surprisingly, it's defensive. Really aggressive defense. So that team is geared towards, and quite frankly, I would not have done what they did, because they're putting all their eggs in one basket with this Desmond Bane move. And I wouldn't have done that. I mean, that's a big roll of the dice, and it kind of ties their hands moving forward. So I personally would not have made that move, but I think it gives them a chance. I mean, injuries happen, and Orlando's had a ton of injuries. That's one of the things that's really hurt them. And Jalen Suggs is really injury prone. And Mo Wagner is still out. I mean, is he going to even play at any point this year? Who knows? So, there are a lot of factors into it. I think everybody saw what happened with Indiana, and they assumed Indiana would be really down. Mm-hmm. And I think actually Indiana's still going to be a decent team, but everybody's going, well, this is an opportunity. There's no real clear-cut favorite for the Eastern crown, and we can get you get to the NBA Finals, and then, like I said, with injuries and everything else, anything can happen. So I wouldn't have done it, but they are where they are at this point.
Yeah, well, Indiana is a really good example. Who none of us would have thought. None of us would have thought they would. If you were to ask me every series they won, I would have said they're going to lose that series, and they won all of them. So it is a really good example. I think it is showing that some of those players on that team are greatly underrated, because they got some players on the team. They just don't have a lot of accolades. But I'll go back to put injuries aside. If I had to choose, do I like the New York Knicks team or I like the Cleveland Cavaliers team vis-a-vis Orlando? To me, it's not even a tough call, because, also Cleveland is a great defensive team too, right? I mean, okay, not Donovan Mitchell, but inside they're a great defensive team. They got some, I think he's got some real defensive chops. And New York, it's a thin team, but the 6 or 7 guys that play are really good, are really good. So But we'll see. Like I just, I wouldn't have made that move for Bane anyhow. In part because I don't think Bane is the category that you do that for, but I just don't think it's going to get him over the top. Well, let's see. I mean, it'll be fun. I like them, so I'm rooting for them. I'd like to see them knock off New York and or in Cleveland. It give me great pleasure to do that. But I think they're going to find out in the end that they traded too soon, because I think they needed some more draft picks on that team, is my guess.
Very possibly. All right. Well, anything else to add?
Nope. Fun game. We got Sacramento next. Is it on the road or is it in Delta Center?
I'm not even sure. I mean, look at the schedule. So I don't know.
Okay. I think we got a Friday game.
Great. All right. Well, we will call it quits for this edition of Jazz Smack. And for those watching on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. And you can also follow us on X at Jazz Smack. And we will talk to everybody later.